Leah, cool. Welcome, my friend.
Thanks, Dylan.
Albert, are we able to sort of, yep, he's all over it. Cool. Yeah, cool. So today's podcast live is all about a special lady who has been a member for, I think, just over 12 months now, has come a massive way, sort of hitting those 15K months. While she started with us, she was, flat out burnt out as an in-person coach, trying to run out of, I think, 2 or 3 commercial gyms, trying to build a team. And she just thought, fuck that. There's got to be a better way. And now you've fully transitioned, mate, into, a hybrid coach out of your own home. Yeah, welcome.
Thanks, Dylan. No, it's good to get on here and just, I guess, just share my thoughts, share my journey, have a bit of fun today. Should be pretty cool.
Absolutely, mate. So, mate, for those who don't know, tell us who you are, what you do, and how you came about being a coach.
Yeah, so obviously a lot of you guys out there in Mumba know who I am. I'm Leah Wheeler. I'm actually really proud to say that I am a female health-specific coach now, fully online. I have about 20 sessions in person that I still run because I absolutely love running sessions in person still. Bit about me though, like the journey. Why did I actually become probably a coach to start with, then an online coach? So look, I went through a period of my life. It probably started about in 2017 when I really just wasn't looking after myself. So I headed up quite a big branch at the Commonwealth Bank in Kalgoorlie, actually. So I was there doing a secondment for 3 years. I did a bit of a country stint. And I've always been someone that has always wanted to push, I guess, the glass ceiling when it comes to women in leadership at the end of the day, and be able to do the best thing that I can do, and show people out there that women can also do great things. I'm a very big advocate in that space. Mm-hmm. So it kind of started back in 2017 when I did become a bank manager for CommBank, and I was heading up as 15 staff at the time, sort of leading and running them. But what I kind of noticed is that I started to let go of my own health and fitness. Like, I was leaving home at 6:30 in the morning. I was getting home at like 6:37 at night after a big day. I was making sure all my staff were being looked after, like had their lunch breaks, make sure they had their annual leave booked and things like that. And what I began to notice was that I just had no energy, like after hours. I was not the greatest mum that I now am today. I can proudly say that I'm much better for that. But I just let myself go. We had a bit of an incident in the branch one day, and unfortunately it was a violent attack caused by another staff member, which wasn't ideal at the time. So that kind of caused me to sit back and look at myself and go, what were the causing factors for me to get to this point in time? Why am I so run down? Like, what can I do better for myself? So I actually, the first thing was that I admitted I had a problem, and the problem was that I was addicted to work. So I admitted that, and I actually took some time off, which was really, really cool. So I took 6 weeks off, had a bit of what they call stress leave, so to speak, in the bank, which is quite okay. And after that 6 weeks, I was mulling over it for quite some time. I took a really risky move, and that was to admit that I just couldn't run a branch of 15 people anymore, because my health and fitness was way more important to me, and my mental space too. So yeah, I picked up the phone and I made that risky move of saying, like, I'm not going to come back as a branch leader anymore. I'm going to step to the side and let someone else do it so I can actually focus more on myself and my family. So that's kind of where it started. I jumped in and I did the whole F45 for about 12 months. I really loved it because it gave me a sense of, like, at the end of a work day, like some sort of accomplishment, especially for a busy professional, and that's what I was at the end of the day. So it gave me that outlet, like that physical outlet, emotional outlet, so I could go home and then be mum, right? Put that hat on and be a better person. So that all happened, and then I think I got to about 10 and a half years in the bank, and I kind of just started speaking to my partner at the time, and I said to him, look, I've lost that, not the motivation, but just the level of commitment to the office job that I was doing, right? And I really, really enjoyed the impact of physical movement on myself. So we had a bit of a chat. I ended up resigning, which was a little bit of a risky move once again. I remember distinctly, and this is probably one of the reasons why I've sort of pushed so hard in the Mamba program. My pop actually said to me something, and it's something I'll never forget. My pop turned around and said to me, "Why did you leave a 6-figure comfy office job to become just a coach?" So you can imagine the impact of someone saying that to yourself is like they're pretty much second guessing your moves, second guessing your career. And ever, like, just to this day, I'm like, you know what? I'm sticking it to the man. I'm not just a coach. Like, I've made well and above the 6 figures now. And it's a great place to be able to probably just step it up, prove something, not only to him, but also to myself. I think the biggest thing about me becoming coach was being able to spread more awareness to women, in particular, to not put themselves last. Like, it's not okay. We need to step things up. For me, it's always been about role modeling to my children as well. So yeah, that's why I got into the coaching space. I was pretty much sick of my own bullshit, letting myself go, jumped all in. I took the time off work that I needed. I went and did my studies to become a coach. I just went all in. Like, I made some educated choices, but risky ones at the end of the day. Like, I moved back from Kalgoorlie. I literally had nothing to my name. I had the payout that I got from the bank to pay for my course. I remember starting my course and I think I had like a couple $100 in my bank account, and I was living at home with my parents again, like at the age of, would have been 32, 33 at that point in time. And I was like, you know what? I've got nothing else to lose, and I've got everything that I can give to this to make it a success as well. So 2 things that have come from it, why I've become a coach, is like prove myself and prove others wrong that I can be a success in a different industry, number 1. And number 2, just the awareness for women looking after themselves, putting themselves first. So that's why I am who I am today, which is really, really cool.
That's amazing, mate. And like, thanks for that sort of insight and context. And like, I think it just shows so much inside of your content, inside of what you're doing, and what you bring to not just being a coach, but I guess being that thought leader, that sort of influence or that inspiration in the niche that you're sort of working with. And it just shines through because you've lived it, you've been it, you've gone to rock bottom. And when you had to ask yourself those hard questions, what do I want to do? You came back with a pretty solid answer, which is pretty cool. So, mate, fast forwarding from there, you're now a coach. You did pretty well in your first sort of year or so as a coach. And then just before sort of you hit Mamba, you were starting to run into some roadblocks. Do you sort of want to tell us about where you were at that stage of your career before you sort of kicked into the program?
Yeah, absolutely. So like many coaches, I think I had the benefit of coming from a business background in banking. Like, I knew how to sell in person and do consults to an extent. It was just like a different industry for me to be able to do it in. So I understood like the KPIs around like how many consults I needed to get in person to convert, XYZ members for myself. So I started off by myself, which was really cool. And I think it was only about 6 months into that, like I was fully booked trainer. Like I was doing 50 sessions a week on my own. That's when I came across just a different mentor in the face-to-face space, which was really cool. And then we decided to leverage my time. I thought it was something that I would be really passionate about, which was growing a team of trainers. So we went out and we branched out into a different commercial gym. One of the things that we executed, I managed in 2 weeks to add another 6 figures to my face-to-face business, just from absolute sheer dedication. Running a particular like organic, I guess, marketing strategy for that. But I was doing at that stage like 12, 13-hour days. So I was doing like my own face-to-face, but then I was running a team, and then I was having to grow that team and maintain the team as well. And I kind of got to that point in time, I actually started to notice like my own health and fitness once again slipping. My mental health space, not great, because I was just under so much pressure, I guess, to continue and to grow. And I just felt like it wasn't aligning with what I actually envisaged my life to be. Because I think most of us out there, like when we become coaches, right, we're like, it's going to be awesome. I get to train when I want. I can have some downtime during the day. That wasn't happening for me. I was just like back to back running between 2 different locations. Like it got ridiculous, basically. I noticed that I started taking sick days, which isn't great as a business owner. So I had to make another risky decision, and I was like, right, we're going to shut shop on the second location. So that's what I decided to do. I just admitted to myself, I was like, this just isn't for me. And if things aren't for you, I'm a really big advocate, like, don't do it. Have a good conversation with yourself. Like, if it's not aligning with the lifestyle that you actually want to live, then you need to have a think about it. So that's what I did. And then I sort of came across, so I joined, is it Inner Circle? We had some really quick wins on the board quite quickly in that space, you know, cash front and stuff like that, which was epic. I think I managed to grab about 7.5K up front in the matter of like 48 hours, which was pretty cool. And then you started chatting to me, which is epic. I loved it. Like giving me so much value, right, behind the scenes. I was like, okay, there's definitely a better way to do this. There's better things out there. And I think one of the key drivers for me to join Mamba was that I could see the success that other coaches were having, but I could also see that there was like light at the end of the tunnel of like not having to do 50 sessions a week, but also not having to like have another trainer and look after them as well. So that's why I stepped into Mamba, just to reduce, I guess, that pressure of being here, there, and everywhere, right? That's what we all want as a coach. Yeah,
mate. And like, I know for a ton of coaches out there, you know, like maybe 40, 50, 60 hours, like you start adding up what that sort of looks like in your bank balance, and, you know, in a way that is a successful coach, like knowing the amount of money you were sort of pulling in. How was that? How did you manage to step away from that? Because relatively comfortable, you know, obviously you were leading towards burnout, but there's still that big question, like, shit, if I walk away from this, am I giving up a good opportunity? Am I going to make it hard on myself? Is this other thing going to work? How did you sort of work with that?
Yeah, I've built that's a really good question, Dylan, because a lot of people are like, how could you just walk away from like, you know, multiple six figures? Like, you're crazy, right? The thing that I've had to build up in my own headspace is a money mindset, and having a really healthy one. So that stems from not having a healthy one first. So, and a lot of us have it out there. And what I mean by that is that a little bit of context and background, like I grew up, we weren't well off at all growing up. My mum was a single mum when I was about 6, 7 years old. And I remember like my grandfather having to help us pay the rent for the house that we lived in, just so that we could live in a stable house growing up. You know, I remember eating those 2-minute noodles for dinner, right? So we were struggle town growing up. It wasn't until I witnessed my mum really working hard to be able to get to where she got to. And so for me, I had to let go of that lack money mindset that I did have, just by having some really deep conversations and having a chat, support that I had to have through and from them. So when I say that, I went and actually spoke to my dad and my mum about the decision that I was making to let go of, you know, this multiple 6-figure business to chase a different dream, which was online coaching. And they were nothing but fully supportive of the situation. My mum said to me, she's like, well, what have you got to lose other than money, you know, at the end of the day? And so that sticks with me a lot. It sticks with me a lot with all the choices and decisions I now make. Like, my money mindset is a lot better. I no longer get concerned if someone will leave my program, because I just look at it as money does come and go. And I'm very much about that now. So that's probably me, and that did help me make the decision. I was like, money does come and go, right? And money's not the driving force for me anymore. And I think it wasn't the driving force when I made that choice to let go of the multiple 6 figures to come online to then regrow it at the end of the day. I had to just let go of that, probably that fear of lack of money and insecurity that I did have at the time. So, yeah, that's how I kind of got past that. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful, mate. And like, so now fast forward, you know, you've sort of taken that hurdle, you're taking that leap. You sort of seen, you know, a heap of the Mamba crew doing pretty well. And then you're also seeing like that light at the end of the tunnel. Cool. Now you've jumped into an online coach. What were sort of some of the hurdles you faced at the start? What are some of the things you had to overcome?
Yeah, look, I'm going to keep it real. It was hard. It was hard to start. Like, the hurdles that I faced was more recognition that it wasn't that I didn't have enough time to do the things I needed to do to grow online. It was actually a lack of willingness, is how I put it. So I had to be willing to put in the work at the end of the day, to grow, to see that light at the end of the tunnel. It was all about, managing my time. The high performance calendar is something that I still work to each and every day. Like, I'm constantly refining it to get to the light at the end of the tunnel for myself. And for me, it was just about like being relentless in that approach, not giving up, in particular, if we didn't have a great week. Like, there were weeks, guys, in all honesty, like there were weeks there where I didn't sign up a client, but did that stop me? Did that make me want to quit? Absolutely not. And I think the reason why I didn't want to quit is that, number one, I had so much to prove. And number two, I'm here for, to make this work at the end of the day. I've got a family that relies upon me. So if this doesn't work, nothing will. That was my mindset around that. Yeah.
No, that's very, very cool, mate. And like with some of those challenges, including like, not making a sale, and if we were to take away sort of like your reason why, what was some of the key actions you did to overcome them?
Yeah, I probably annoyed the shit out of you, if I'm going to be honest. I remember at the start, I was like, what can I do differently? That is what it needs to be. It's not, I didn't do this week, or I didn't get this sale. It was kind of like, for me, in that headspace, like, what do I need to do? So for me, on the weeks where I didn't get the sale, it was like, all right, let's look at the KPIs. Did I send enough messages? Did I put the posts up that I needed to put up? Did I actually message every single person that liked or commented my stuff or viewed my story? Like, it came from the approach of, let's look at the process first as to why I didn't get the outcome. And then I just annoyed you, basically. I was like, what can I do better? Like, let's review this, like, put my content reviews in, like, do the one-to-one stuff that I needed to do. I think that was the biggest factor for me on the weeks where I wasn't doing well, because it can really mess with your headspace. It really does. Like, sometimes you're like, am I actually good enough for this? Am I doing the things I need to do? But when we look at it and we go, hang on, let me look at it from a process perspective. What do I need to do differently? That's when kind of the magic happened for me, is like getting that feedback, right? And constantly trying to just work on it. Yeah.
Absolutely, mate. And like, you're a model student and you still continue to be, and that's all you can sort of ask for. And one of the big things, mate, is you've gone through and, in my opinion, you've mastered your niche, and you've mastered your ability to at will change your niche or change your messaging. And now you've sort of gone down a realm where you've sort of got multiple product layers. You got your nutrition coaching, you've also got a bit of a higher ticket model. But the cool thing is, you're actually finding you're getting more and more people reach directly out to you. And are people that are like, they're not really even questioning it. They're just like, sign me up. So even though that sounds amazing, maybe if you can give us some insights about the work you've put in to make that happen, maybe around your avatar, your niche, and anything along that sort of made that happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I think my avatar has changed and grown and developed over time. I think it's just come from a space of being able to impact more people. And as we grow, it's being able to impact more people in a specific way now. But if I was to kind of, rewind the last 6 to 12 months, the processes I followed was just what Mamba provided to me, like to be able to make sure I actually answered the problems that my avatar actually has. And it came from a number of different avenues. So, the first avenue was like, do my avatar sheet, like constantly revise it, but use the data in front of me. So look at, when I put a poll up and it's specific to my niche, look at, all the answers in the poll. Is there a solution here that I can actually provide in my program? That's probably the first thing that I started to the thing that clicked for me. I was like, I actually have to answer problems, right, to develop and grow as a coach. And once you start to answer problems that you can see and give a real unique and clear solution, that's when you get people that are like, yeah, I'm all in, like, I'm keen, like, where can I sign? I think that the process, though, it just came from just a very clear understanding of who I wanted to help. And that probably came from that internal, like the reason why I became a coach was like, because I wanted women to put themselves first. So that was like the first avatar for me, was like these super busy professional women. What can I do to actually help them? Like, what helped me become who I am? And I sort of reversed engineered that into my program. And I called it the Unstoppable program, because that's how I felt I was becoming. I was like, yeah, I'm becoming unstoppable. Like, as a busy woman, I've developed this program around like the bare minimum habits, like the time management, like what does nutrition look like for a busy person? How can I help these people? So that was my first avatar that I helped out, and I still help a lot of those women to this day. I think that they gravitate towards me because I am that avatar, from a natural perspective. And then I guess as I've become more experienced in Mumba, I've sort of then chimed in a little bit more on like, okay, these women aren't just women that are busy not looking after themselves. Some of these women actually have like health problems, right, that I need to help out with too, where I can. And that's where I was starting to think about, well, what are those solutions? Like, what does that look like from a coaching perspective? And can I scale it as well, is probably the biggest one. And so then I started to develop like my newer program, which is centered more around that female common health issues that they face. So, you know, the endometriosis, the PCOS, thyroid to an extent, with the issues that they have there. And women actually being able to lose weight in a way that they can, because they really need to master their hormones and hacks around that too, which is really key for them. And then I think I came up with like the whole meal planning thing. Like, I've always been interested and intrigued, because once again, it's come from my original avatar, which was busy women and being able to like enjoy food, right, while you get your goal. So just numerous conversations, data, like client check-ins, and just sort of, I guess, just being alert enough to always note these ideas down on pen and paper, but then not just noting it down, actually putting it into practice, like actually putting it into your program, not just thinking about it as an idea. And the reason I say that, actually, I want to raise this with you, is because another thing that I remember, my partner, my dear partner, still my partner, a few years back, he actually said to me, he's like, sometimes you just talk so much about your ideas, but you don't put it into practice. And like, that really hit home for me. And so ever since I became a coach, I was like, no, like every idea I have, I'm going to make that educated risk and that choice to actually put it into practice. And you know what, create a program, let's see how it goes. If it solves just one person's problem, then ultimately, like, I've done my job at the end of the day. Yeah,
absolutely, Leah. And like, I think that little piece of advice there is something that I know has massively changed like my life in terms of my ability to deliver all these solutions to my clients. And I know Trent's sitting here as well, and the likes of, you know, Paul and that, the guys that, and the ladies, sorry, everybody that's doing very well, is that's what they do. They take, you know, imperfect action all the time. And I've created so many terrible programs that it's not funny. But, you know, even if it is a shit program, you know, the next one becomes better, and it just slowly gets better. But as you said, if it helps one person and it provides one solution, you know, you've done a great job. And mate, just on that, like the results that you're getting with these people, if you were to choose like a theme song for the results that they're getting, what would it be?
Honestly, it would probably be like Eye of a Tiger. If everyone knows that song out there, it's like a bit of like a like, you know, we're coming in for the kill. We're gonna absolutely smash your results, but we're gonna grow, right? We're gonna grow and develop, and we're gonna absolutely like dominate out there as women. So that'd be the theme song for my clients out there.
Yeah, that's awesome, mate. And what do you think, like, in terms of the female health space and the female coach space, what do you think is setting you apart from everyone else?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think you need to become a specialist, right? That's what sets you apart. The fact that now I do have Paul helping me out on the side a little bit with that, like with education. Like, I've always been big on, and I said this in my stories yesterday, bit of an analogy. So I sat down, had to think about this one, and I was like, in all of the times throughout my life where I feel like I don't know enough, or I don't have the skill to do the things that I really want to do, which, number one, when you're a coach, if you don't have the skills that you need to do to get the outcomes that you need to get particular people, then you do need to kind of get help, right? At the end of the day, not be afraid to admit that, because you know what, like, I don't have a university degree. I've just got like my Cert 3 and 4 in coaching. So at the end of the day, I was like, how can I actually level up in this space? But it also comes from a place of just self-development too, like lots of reading and articles. And I remember like one of my first coaches at Good Life, when I started, I was like, right, I'm a brand new coach. Like, I need to get better, because came from a cookie cutter course, right, through a college that gives you the certification that you need to become a coach. So I was like, I need to set myself apart by actually being someone that learns more than everyone else. So that's always been in my own headspace from the last 3 years. It was like, let's invest. So when I got the job as a coach, you know, at my first commercial gym, I was like, right, how can I become better? So I actually paid another coach to have training sessions with them. But when we were in our training sessions, he gave me permission just to ask him questions that I needed answered, which was epic. And he was actually a women's health specialist, which was really cool. So I learned a lot from him indirectly within the coaching sessions. I was very smart probably about how I learned, right, at the end of the day. And then from there, just continuous improvement and growth. But once again, it just comes down to the fact that being a woman, I resonate with a lot of the issues that a lot of women have out there. And I think just a lot of women gravitated towards me, obviously, number one, being a woman, but then just the, I guess it's the empathy, right, that I have in my coaching style too. And that's it's sort of just taken off from there. I guess that's how I set myself apart, is like, I'm caring and I'm courteous, but I'm also educating at the same time. And I'm also not afraid to, in a way, be a curious coach. When people come to me with statements and questions, I'll always ask them like what they actually think first. So I always say this to the new ladies that I sign up. The difference you're going to find with my coaching is I'm not a coach that's just going to tell you to go and do the habits. I'm actually going to tell you why that we need to do them and how it's going to actually help you. And that I'm here to actually support and educate these women, because I firmly believe that as a coach, it's not just about signing someone up, giving them what they need to do. It's actually about encompassing that support, right, that a lot of women actually need. That's what I notice the most, is like women need sounding boards and they need community and support to get their results too.
Yeah, amazing, mate. And one thing I've noticed there, mate, you haven't said that you help women 30 to 35-year-old from Bondi who want to lose X, Y, Z. So in terms of, mate, you've just clearly defined your avatar. You've just clearly defined your niche. How are you actually getting this across? Because when we look at marketing, people are like, you got to know your avatar. Who are they? And it's like 35-year-old Jenny from Bondi who likes croissants on the beach after she's been to Peter Kirk's kettlebell sessions. Cool. It's brilliant, but you haven't once said anything about a demographic or a target audience, but you've clearly defined who you coach and how you separate yourself. How have you been able to define that and make that something that shows up in your content to attract the right people?
Yeah, like in all honesty, it's constant refinement of my avatar, number one. Like I actually do sit down like you're meant to every 30 days and I actually refill it. So I do the work, right? The process that we have in Mumba is around that. So that'd be the first thing that I do, like piece of advice for you guys, is just constant review, because what I thought was my avatar and their pain points has actually grown and developed a lot. And so that probably comes into play from two things. It's like constant development of my avatar, but it's also listening to the women I speak to. I think that's the biggest thing, is like that market research. I'm heavily invested in that. So anytime I have a direct message conversation, and obviously, you know, our aim of the game is to impact and help more people, right, with their health and fitness. For me, though, in the background, my process is like, let's find out what this person's problems are, what are their obstacles, because if I don't have the solution yet, this is going to be the next solution that I can put up at the end of the day. So that's how I do it. That's how I demonstrate or show people who I actually help, is actually just listening. A lot of people say that they listen, but they don't. A lot of people listen to reply. So what I've had to learn to do is reframe myself and just listen, get better at listening and understanding the actual core problem, and just keep asking like why, and keep diving deeper and get to the core of the actual pain point that they have. And that is something that I've been working on really heavily at the moment, is like actually giving people more solutions on my social media as a part of my marketing message, because my last mentor, he kind of had this perspective of like, don't give away too much free shit. Whereas when I started with Mumba, it was the complete opposite. It was like, give the value, right? So had to really change my headspace around giving value and not expecting anything in return as well. I think that's the biggest one. So yeah, when it comes to my marketing message, to kind of summarize it, I just listen. I listen and then I put things into practice. So I create the resources that these people need.
Beautiful, mate. And like in terms of giving value, like we often mistake that for what it is as well. How would you define value? And maybe can you give us a clear example of where you share it, how you share it, and how you can get leads from that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a really cool question. So for value, it's not even just about the content that I put out, it's within the direct messages that I have. So, you know, I've got a lot of messages, as you can imagine, being on Mumba for quite some time. The most recent conversation I actually had with a lady when I was building rapport was that she has like a 2.5-year-old daughter. You know, obviously her sleep pattern is heavily impacted, and then therefore she wakes up feeling really sluggish throughout the day, and she doesn't feel like she actually has enough energy to put behind or into being able to put herself first and actually get her weight loss goal. And I found that really, like, it is a common issue, right? But I found it really interesting. And I thought to myself, I could try and sell this lady straight away on that pain point, or how about I actually try and add value to her first, right? So that she can trust me a little bit more. And so what I did within my direct message, I actually asked for permission. I just said to her, look, not into giving unsolicited advice or tips, but do you mind me talking a bit more about your sleep rhythm and how I can help you feel a little bit more energetic for the day? And so she was like, yep, I'm keen, like I'm all ears. And then I gave her the tip and I said, go and implement it if you can, have an open mind about it. And I'm going to come back here in a few days or a week and we're going to see how that went, which is really cool. So I gave her the tip around the circadian rhythm and how we can help kind of reset that in the morning by having some light on our retinas when we first wake up, just to really just reduce that kind of sleep hormone and then get her to feel more awake in the morning, and that should help her, which is really important for mums, right? Because our sleep patterns are crap and I feel like we never regain them either. So gave her that tip. She's been working on it. I checked in on her and she's like, that was actually like the one thing that I really needed, which is really, really cool, right? And I was like, yeah, epic. Like, I love that I've been able to help you with that. So that's where I come from from a place of probably value, is like within my messages, right? I'm giving value where I can. So find out the pain point, give the solution and get that trust. Off the back of that, yes, I have signed her up. So because obviously she saw the value that I could provide and I guess the specialist education that I provided to her in that space too, which is really cool. I think when it comes to value with posting, like I said, just listen to the problems that either your current clients have had. That's what I do within my check-ins, like that data point, and not being afraid to give it out. Like if I've already given it to a client, yes, they're a paying client, but what's actually stopping me from giving that PDF to someone who's actually got a problem and I could just positively impact them, you know, for that day so that they can at least get the ball rolling with their health and fitness. I think I'm a big believer in that. I think the thing is, right, with coaching is that don't be afraid to give value, because at the end of the day, coaches provide accountability, right? So we can give all this value, but if they don't go and implement it and be self-accountable, then they're not going to get the results anyway. That's how I see it now. So that's sort of how my conversations go now, is like, what value can I give? And I treat it like you say, Dylan, like this is $100 PT session, right? This post I'm putting out is worth that. So if someone comes on my page, it's like a landing page, like how much value can they get and walk away with for free? And that's what I'm all about now.
Yeah, massive. And like little snippet of that is like essentially you listen to what the individual is saying and then you just ask yourself, how can I help this individual person? If you don't have a piece of content, you go and create it. If you do have a piece of content or a helpful resource, you just try to help them as soon as you can. Incredible, mate. No, very, very cool, mate. And so, Leah, I got a question is like, mate, now you're not a banker. Cool. Has your fitness business been a complete disaster and you should be still a banker, or have you sort of surpassed what you were doing at the bank? And following on from that, where do you see yourself going in, you know, the next 6 months, 12 months, the next 5 years? Not only maybe in terms of your like income, lifestyle, but also maybe the impact you want to have in terms of space.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, yes, definitely. I've surpassed the bank manager wage. Just a heads up, bank managers, they're probably on about the 120, 130 plus bonuses. But, and that was quite comfortable, right, back in the day, which is really, really cool. So, yes, I have more than doubled that return, which is really, really cool. I love that I've been able to do that. But for me, it wasn't actually about that. It was more about, like you said, the impact that I can make on more women, because I went through my own struggles and I was like, there's obviously better out there and there's more things I can do. And I've always really struggled to think about the legacy that I wanted to leave behind, like for my son and also for other people. And so I've been doing like a lot of soul searching lately around that and what legacy I actually want to leave behind. And I think the thing that I want to leave behind the most is to actually show my son that with some hard work and dedication, you can absolutely like achieve the life that you want to achieve. It doesn't matter what type of life you want to achieve, but you can actually do it. I think that's the biggest thing for me. Leah in the next 6 months is going to be looking at kind of generating that 30K month. That's a massive goal for me as an online coach. Leah in the next sort of 12 months, looking at sort of prepping out and getting some stuff on autopilot with courses, like where I don't have to spend a lot of time investment every week on these courses, that they're going to be almost like a set and forget for me, so that I can impact more people by way of education, which I'm really big on, is like educating and being able to give people the ability to, I guess, self-learn, right, at the end of the day, and take control of their life and their lifestyle and get over maybe some of the problems that they've had, so they can live a better life at the end of the day. Yeah, that's what that kind of looks like. I think the next 5 years, I would be looking at sort of like living remotely. That's something that I've always wanted to do anyway. Like, it's always been in the pipeline for me, is like live remote on my laptop, do my online coaching. I think, within even the next 12 to 18 months, I hope to just sort of have the ability to actually step away from that face-to-face coaching as well. I think that'll be a massive milestone. That's something I'm going to do my absolute best in the next 6 months to work on. And the reason I want to do that is I just want to be there more for my son. Like, he's got his own health issues and stuff going on. And so for me as a mum, he's like my top priority when he is at home. So if I can work the hours, during school time online, that's what I'm going to do, which is really, really cool. I've already started to put some things in place to kind of make that happen. I'm very much about, it's not something that I can do right now, but how can I make it happen? Like, what are the steps do I need to take to actually get this to work? And I'm big on the KPI space to make these goals happen too. It's like, well, how many messages a day do I need to send? How many signups do I need? I'm always constantly like thinking like that one step ahead, I think, like to get to my next goal. I think that's the biggest thing for me, is like never settle for what you've currently achieved. Like, don't become complacent, because I think not long ago I kind of went through that phase, right? I hit a certain level and that complacency slipped in and I got a bit lazy. And I think that's where, when we start to drop the ball, we're obviously not going to reach our goals as well. So yeah, I think, it's a complete transformation. Once again, I've already done a complete transformation. Like, a lot of people that have been watching me quite closely, like, how did you do it? I just did it with sheer relentlessness at the end of the day. Like, I don't use time as an excuse to get my goals. Like, I look at my calendar, I'm like, well, what can I do? Like, how can I make this happen? Big believer in that as well. Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're a fucking Terminator, mate, which is very, very cool. And one thing, mate, we had a bit of a coaching call and conversation a couple of weeks ago, and just then when you said about that complacency and that getting comfortable, and I sort of challenged you. I was like, mate, to do this is what you're going to need to think of next. And all of a sudden there was that bit of anxiety of like, oh, fuck, you're right, but I don't necessarily want to see that right now because it's more work. And so just one last little bit of value there. How, when you do hit that comfortable spot, because I know it happens for everyone. Like, I know for me, I got to a point where I was like, fuck, this life's pretty good, and an old quote, I think it's Marvin Hagler. It's like, it's pretty hard to get out of bed at 4 a.m. and run laps when you're sleeping in silk pajamas. Mate, how did you get over that? And maybe like knowing you got to go to the next level, knowing you got to put in that work, that grind, that graph again, what's going to get you out of bed to do it?
Yeah, that's a really good question. What actually gets me out of bed to do the things I do now? It's actually my son, like just showing to him, without becoming too emotional right now, just showing to him that with the hard work and the persistence and also consistency when it comes to achieving like anything with your life, you got to do it. Like there are no real excuses. My real driver is being able to go close my laptop at 2:30 in the afternoon, pick him up from school, right, and not have to look at my laptop after that. Like that's the dream, right, that I'm working on. And I've managed to do that now a couple of days this week, which is really, really cool. So the one thing that kind of keeps me grinding or keeps me going is actually my family, right, at the end of the day. And, you know, it's not even about the financial position anymore and what I could get to. It's more just about proving to myself that I can unlock different levels. And I've always probably been like that anyway as a person, is like, well, what can I do next? Like, what feedback can I get? I know you and I like constant feedback, right, on my own development. Even as a coach for Mumba, it's like, what can I do better? And just having that, I guess that growth mindset's probably the biggest one that I see. Like not allowing my hurdles to get in the way of me is probably the biggest one. So yeah, when I get up, like I'm still up at 4:45 every morning, still grinding away. And the reason I do it is because I want to get shit done before I do school drop off. That's another goal that I unlocked, is like, I want to actually be able to take my kids to school every day. I don't want to rely on anybody else to do that. Like I want to be the mum that drops him off and picks him up every day. So whatever I have to do to get there, I will do it. That's my attitude in life now, is like, what do I have to do? How do I do it? And constantly asking, like, how do I do it as well? Get feedback. If something's not working, you need to fix it. Yeah.
Fucking awesome, mate. Fucking awesome. And last question for today, mate. 50 years, 100 years down the track, you know, every single person you've come across, your business, the people you've impacted in your life, they're all standing around at your funeral and they get to say something about you, your career, and the impact you've had. What are they going to say at your funeral? What will they say about your career and the impact you've had?
Yeah, she was a boss. Nah. She actually genuinely cared about me. She cared about me actually getting my goals, and she actually added value to my life. I think the biggest thing that I want to leave is that I'm actually adding value to people's lives. That's all I ever want at the end of the day. Yeah.
Yeah, fucking awesome, mate. No, very, very cool. Leah, mate, thank you very, very much. These calls have almost, I think, become my favorite part of the week now. And mate, thank you so much for sharing, you know, your stories, your lessons, your learnings, and being an inspiration and a leader within our community. And can't thank you enough, mate. Also for trusting me at the start of this process, and then also just for being so kind with your time and sharing your knowledge here with Inside of Mumba too. So thanks heaps, and we will catch you guys next time.
Thanks, Dylan. See you guys.
See you guys.